Hello and welcome to Bits and Atoms, the Grisham Robotics Founder Series. I'm your host, Elias Can, and today I've got Georgi Rabotov, co-founder and CEO of PocketFit, joining me. To get started, Georgi, would you mind sharing a quick intro about you and PocketFit?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I'm the CEO. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. And a quick intro about me. I have quite a technical background, and I used to be a developer for many years. I also have sales experience, and then I moved into more of an architecture and product side of things. And then here we are now building um the this incredible fitness app that's going to help a lot of people. Yeah.
Amazing. And we'll definitely get into and touch more on the product side, because interested to hear more about that. Maybe taking a step back and looking at you personally first. What kind of originally motivated or inspired you to become a founder? What's your origin story?
So first things first, back in the day, I used to resell quite a lot of sneakers and clothing, or limited clothing, which kind of prompted my entrepreneurial journey. And then secondly, I had a job where I worked as a backend developer, software engineer, where we had like a 24/7 chat. It was so much work all the time. And I remember over a month and a half or 2 months, I had done 320 hours overtime. And when I went to the manager, I asked for compensation because it was the entire team of like 20 developers that were working overtime. And he told me, Georgie, you're in no position to ask for anything. And I asked him, okay, then do the work yourself. And he told me, why should I bark when I have dogs to do so? And basically all the developers were gathered in my communal area in my building, and we all quit at the same time. And I told myself, when I have a company, I'm never going to treat people like that. So yeah, that was one of the things where I realized that people would actually like follow me, and I was able to do quite a lot and create a lot of interesting apps and websites and pretty much everything that comes to mind. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a very difficult personal situation and story. And wow, what a poor response from him to pretty much say, you've got no leg to stand on. Like, do the work and stop complaining.
Exactly, yeah. But at the end of the day, it turned out it's a fun story to tell, because at the end of the day, like you at this point, and then you get to a certain place, and you understand that you'll never allow this to ever happen again. And if you actually allow it to, it would be best to do it for yourself, right? So you can create your dream. Practically, you can build on your dream. Yeah.
Yeah, you can take control of your own destiny. Very interesting. And maybe high level here too, just to get the gears kind of turning. But why did you choose to build in fitness, generally speaking? Is it a personal passion area, or you saw something in the market that you thought was missing? Why fitness?
To be honest, boy, back in the day, I got done by a girl, and I decided to go really hard on my fitness journey, and I lost nearly 40 kilograms in 1 year, which is 90 pounds for the American viewers, which is quite a lot. So, and after that, I mean, during that journey, I tried a lot of fitness apps, and honestly, nothing stuck with me. And then I put myself for a challenge to ask 200 people that are training for their feedback. How do they log their workouts? Do they have the same issue? And I remember for 2 months, every day I would go to the sauna and steam rooms at Third Space, and I would ask people if they use any apps. And from the research that I had, like around 70% of the people either never logged their workouts, or they were using spreadsheets. That's and then the following question: if I build this, would you actually pay for it? And I got a lot of yeses, and that prompted me. Even though later down the line, I realized that it didn't quite go the way I expected. But I'll get deeper into that a little bit later. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you're able to get kind of that early feedback too, because I'm sure it helps kind of tip the scales of saying like this should be something that I build. And I mean, wow, like 90 pounds is a lot to shed for sure. And I mean, for you, was it mainly purely fitness? Was it a mix of like maybe it was before the GLP-1 craze that everybody has rushed and adopted so quickly?
Yeah, to be honest, there was a bit of everything. So one thing that I figured out is actually that I don't really have to change much. I have to replace certain foods. And then what I did was I signed up to an expensive gym, which was about 30 minutes away. If I run in about an hour walk, and then initially I started walking, then I started running a little bit, and then I was running back and forth, and that was like part of my workout. And then I would do my workout, and then I was very consistent, and then planning my meals really helped a lot, and that's what really happened. Yeah, and then at the end of the journey, I even won a CrossFit competition. So yeah, it turned out really, really well.
Amazing. I mean, it sounds like great dedication and a lot of like day by day sticking to it, keeping to the routine and continuing to really grind on that personal journey.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, and for Pocket Fit, how does the experience work if, I was an end user to join? Tell me more about what you're building there and how it kind of works today.
Okay. First, I will tell you where we started. We started as a workout generator because there weren't that many good ones, and that was kind of AI wasn't that advanced. But as we continued, AI advanced quite a lot. And then we built a workout tracker, but then on top of it, and then we kind of, as we were building, we realized, okay, now it's actually very easy in the era of AI to build something, and people were shipping it out for free. And we started adding a lot of like custom little features, like a chatbot that you can manipulate with Apple Watch integrations, but didn't really differentiate us a lot from the market. Even though the user experience was a lot better and a lot easier to work with, it's not really enough to go and create you know, to take over the market really. And when we were doing the accelerator, we decided to completely change the approach. And first of all, what we did was we created like a way. We created a lot of gamification um, elements to the app where it would have your own avatar. You take a picture of yourself first of all. It's going to show you what you can look like in 1, 2, 3, and 6 months, and then it's going to have it's going to create an avatar that out of your picture that's going to evolve just like a Pokemon, for example, as you hit number of workouts, as you hit your weight goals, and that will evolve as you progress. And then on top of it, there is like a lot of notifications. You can add your friends. You can poke them if they're not in the gym. You can laugh at them if they skip the gym session. So we have that kind of tracking. And essentially, um, as we were looking at the videos, most of the apps actually either had like their own video library, so they used like a basic kind of skeleton. And that was the moment where we said like we really need to put a character that's the front facing of the app. Um, and we created two characters. One is called Kai, and the other one is called Maya. And they both have AI in their name. But essentially, when you go through the onboarding, the first thing that we did was clean it really, like make it really, really good. Where if your choice is to lose weight, you choose the character type that's like closest to you. So, for example, let's say you're slightly overweight, and then as you go through the onboarding steps, the character is going to be losing weight. It's going to get in a perfect shape at the end. And also, that character is the one that you can practically choose how your which character can show you the videos. So we created our own video libraries from the two characters and the skeleton, if you wish. So we created like a lot of personalization on that front. And then Soon, actually, at the end of this week, we're launching your food and calorie tracker. So there is not actually that many apps that do both workout and calorie tracking. So at that point, I feel like we will have like a really, really good ground to stand on. And then as part of the roadmap, we'll have things that are coming. And most of these things, to be honest, come from our users. And initially, the first batch of users that we had, we got about 600 users. Um, Most of them are not active, but the first batch of users that we had, they didn't really give us a lot of feedback. And when we would say, okay, what do you think would be a great thing that will make your life easier? And they would say, honestly, nothing. And that was a big bummer. But then after that, when we kind of looked at the users that we were asking, they were like the users that don't really pay for the app. So we moved towards the users that pay for the app, and that gave us a little bit more direction into what kind of features we can build to make it better. And yeah, we're at the point where the app is in a much better state. As we were going through the accelerator, we were already planning to do a complete um, a complete front end rebuild, so it looks a lot better, and then we have way more tailored statistics. And in terms of personalization, we have stats. That's for example, before the session, how do you feel? After the session, how do you feel? We build a report off of that. And you also basically, when you do a workout, it asks you where did you feel the workout the most, and then you see your body, and you can tap on the different parts of the body, and then after some time, it shows you which areas you targeted the most and which areas you neglected the most. So essentially, we collate all of that data to be able to create a very personalized experience to the user for the users. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And I think it's such a good blend of all these different aspects, because you mentioned earlier that avatar piece. I know these days folks love having some kind of like digital representation of themselves or something that can show progression um, in a more visually kind of like appealing way than just like a status bar or something like that. Like I think that status bar piece has been played out over time. So the avatar is a great idea and totally makes sense to expand into, like you were saying, around calorie tracking and what you're eating, because I think for a lot of people, like fitness and diet go hand in hand, and they're very, very interrelated. And so it really does make sense that you are expanding, not saying just corely in fitness, but also moving over to food and diet and how people are kind of tracking what they're eating.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that also allows us to get even more data, which can create an even more personalized experience. Because we can see, for example, if a person wants to lose weight but not really losing weight, then one of those aspects would be he's either not pushing hard enough in the gym, or he's just not eating very well. Yeah. And it makes
Yeah,
it easier. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Um, and I know for folks out there, maybe they've tried like Chat GPT or one of like the generalist chat bots to get information around maybe some kind of training schedule or something related to fitness. Like, what would you say the shortcomings for like the generalist products are versus doing something more tailored and specific?
I think I think first of all, a lot of the I somehow muted myself. Okay, a lot of the products that are out there just give you a tracker. For example, you figure out how you want to train, what you want to do, and then they give you statistics like how consistent are you at the gym, but it doesn't really tell you like where are you missing out. And I think generally on top of it, it's like when you look at the data regarding training, it's not really, how can I say, we try to give it like in such a detailed manner that it makes sense. However, there are some products that are absolutely incredible, such as Bevel, for example, that is very focused on sleep. And we have some other products that are very good around the workouts, for example, Chevy or all other. Um, however, like that's why we went in the direction of more gamification with those aspects, so we can get people to work out more. And in the next, I assume month or two, we're going to be launching a service that I cannot talk about right now, but that service is going to be like adding additional motivation or discipline to the people so they can work out, and that will be a massive differentiator. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no spoilers here. We don't want you to share anything that that's gonna be a big update. We'll all be excited to stay tuned and see once you release it into the wild, then we can all try it then. But yeah, I think that piece makes sense on differentiating, and it does kind of like separate you a lot of the more tailored pieces that you're doing than more of like a generalist product. And maybe one last question here, and kind of sidestepping to a different area of conversation, but curious to get your thoughts. For you as a founder, what's kind of been some of the best fundraising, either like tips or strategies that you've had so far as your time as a founder, or conversely, things that if you were talking to someone who's a first time founder, things to avoid or to not do? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, first of all, being a founder in a startup is it comes down to one question: how long have you got? What's your runway? How can you survive? And for example, me and my co-founder are very lucky because we found different projects that we can do, or like part-time job that we can do that can help us, raise some capital for ourselves to continue. Because when we joined the accelerator, we were on the mindset that we need to raise right now, right now. But as we started learning more and more, and talking to investors, we realized that it's like a very long game and it's a hassle. So, and also to make it, you have to have certain numbers, certain successes, certain, let's say, number of users, certain revenue. There's different conditions. Also, because we're a consumer app and it's a convoluted space, so given that as well is a lot harder to raise. So, and that was the point where we realized, okay, so how do we approach it? So because we didn't have that kind of, we need to raise right now, we first things that we did, we pushed the product to really good state. And then at that point, we started talking to investors where we would get a lot more feedback. For example, one of our interns is the son of a very large investor in Eastern Europe. And we are currently talking to another investor who is practically helping us with a lot of connections. He's been super useful, and he even connected us with a founder that has done exactly the same concept, and they scaled it. So I think they raised like 10 million recently as a Series B or C, and yeah, I think generally you can find hacks, but I would say sometimes it's more of a distraction because it is a full-time job. And if you have to spend 8 hours like trying to find investors and talk to them rather than actually growing a product, then you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot, really. Again, because it's a lot easier to build nowadays. And the focus should be on marketing, really, and how can you grow the product, how can you scale the product, how can you make your product that people would use, and can you find funnels where you can kind of expand your reach, because at the end of the day this is what matters. And to get the investment, you need to show conviction. And if you don't show that, and especially in the era of AI, it's like a wild west. People really don't know kind of what's going on. So I generally think, I generally think it's like I would say to people that start, find 5 investors that you've talked to and kind of ask them what would be the trigger that would make them invest, even if it's like a little bit, right? And I would ask for like 2 or 3 things. So because a lot of the investors will say, oh, you need to do this and this and this, right? You need to do a lot of things because obviously the bar is high. But if you find the 2 common ones between like 3 or 4 investors, those are the things that you must do. And then you set a timeline, and then you kind of remind them when when you hit them, or like every month give them an update, work on this is where we are. And yeah, I believe this is probably the best way. As for finding investors, I think generally you have to think outside the box because they are very busy people. They get like hundreds of emails. So to make them look at you, again, you have to stand out quite a lot, whether it's your personal story, because they'll probably evaluate more than the product, your capability of of success, let's say.
Yeah, definitely early on the team piece and kind of appeal and magic of the founder is very important. I see this term thrown around a lot, but investors are looking for spiky founders. So somebody who is really unique or excels or has some kind of edge in this very specific trade or area. And, that can be a very nice kind of green flag for investors these days. And I really like your point around, trying to, match up questions that you get or match up kind of things that other investors want to see and use that as kind of like a guidepost for yourself because, a lot of investors have different criteria or things that they look for. But if there's a way to kind of triangulate, 1 or 2 things or distill down like 1 or 2 key things from these investor chats that you should focus on, that can make life a bit easier in terms of having a vision for what you need to go after in order to raise funding rather than just guessing and trying to do trial and error.
Yeah, and a lot of the investors will kind of try they'll kind of push you a lot. They'll tell you your product is shit. Your product is not really standing out. Excuse my language, one second. They'll tell you that they don't see how your product would be investable. You may hear a lot of that, and you kind of have to be either delusional or kind of look at it in a way to raise the bar. And a lot of people are very unwilling to change, and sometimes that's very important. So pivots are fine at the end of the day, but if somebody tells you your product is like really, really trash and you have to throw it away, and then you actually do, it means that they can easily tell you what to do. And as a founder, that's not really found really nice, really good. Yeah, because at that point you'll be like, well, if somebody tells him that, he should do something else, he's gonna go ahead. If somebody puts like a really nice offer on the table to get a job, they might actually take the job. So also like this is kind of the resilience part where it's also very important. How do you react to certain questions, and when they push you quite a lot.
Yeah, there's definitely some kind of balance to strike between total abandonment of what you're doing very quickly versus, like, I think on the other end of the spectrum too, there's that sunk cost fallacy where people are stuck and have tried to do the same thing over and over and it's not working. And there's some middle ground there where like the pivot can look beautiful if you find this like middle space. But yeah, the bookends are usually not good, where you leave too quickly or you know, you're not leaving and doing something else, like, and by leaving, like pivoting to trying something new, not leaving like the current product. And so, yeah, there's some kind of beautiful middle ground there, but it's a feel thing, right? There's no perfect answer there for what that is.
Yeah, I agree. But I would also say like one of the things is kind of knowing your customers as well. For example, if you have certain customers and you talk to an investor, um, and let's say in my industry where I am, if I if I have like, for example, users that are going to a gym that costs £20 or $20 or like £30 or $30. Let's give inflation a point. And I cannot expect them to go and spend like $60 or £60 on my like, for example, it's like how willing are you to spend as well on in that industry, in that area. For example, if somebody wants to get fit, they might get the app, but then they will need to get a gym membership. They will need to get, have they ever bought like a magazine for fitness? Have they ever paid for, you know, like their food? Have they ever invested in that? And for example, if you say that if you see that most of your users are not really doing that, then your users are cheap, and it gives you like the real answer about the users that you have. And it's yeah, like for example, this is very important to investors, if you know, because you kind of you judge by what they've done in the past, so you know the real truth. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's that willingness to pay piece and how good of spenders they are. It totally makes sense. Because at the end of the day, you can only be free or at least like subsidizing them for so long. Eventually, somebody will have to pay for something.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Well, we're at time, and I want to thank you, Georgi, for joining me today on Bits and Atoms. It was a great conversation. Wonderful to have you here. I'll let you get back to building, and thanks again for joining.
Yeah. Thank you very much for this. Yeah. Speak soon. Have a good day.